Broadcasting with Ed Shockey.
Thank you. Don't call us. We'll call you. Thank you, Tom Moran. Yes, it's Brian Myers Broadcasting, and my guest on this episode is Diego Castellanos from Channel 6's Puerto Rican Panorama for, it's only been on like
32 years.
32 years. But do you feel secure at all in that position? I mean, it looks like it's going to be on for a while.
It's every show that I do, I think, well, this may be the last. This may be it.
Well, it was mentioned tonight that this is the longest running program Hispanic of its kind in the world and so on. But there's something else other than the fact that you've done a show for the Hispanic community, is that it's a local show. And you are really about the last of the locally produced programs that Channel 6, which used to be known for Captain Noah and Sally Starr and Happy the Clown and Dialing for Dollars, and there was so much local programming with Larry Ferrari. It's now become network, syndication, and so on. And yet here you are still doing this wonderful program for the Hispanic Puerto Rican. I am not Hispanic. I've watched the show many times and enjoyed it tremendously. I find it tremendously entertaining and educational. I've learned so much about it. You were born in Puerto Rico.
Yes.
How much of your life did you spend there before you moved
I guess about maybe 12 years.
Okay, then
came to Camden. I finished growing up in Camden, if you will. And then eventually, moved into the Philadelphia area.
Right, and you started doing Hispanic radio, actually Spanish language radio on WCAM.
On WCAM with Bob Delsey.
Right.
Did that for about 10 years. And then got involved in print broadcasting for a number of years. In fact, I worked for the Courier Post for a year, and I eventually came back to broadcasting because one of the things I like about interviewing somebody on television is that when I used to do print reporting, invariably somebody would accuse me of misquoting them.
Right.
That's not what I said. You took it the wrong way. I never said that. And then we get into this argument that yes, you did. My notes. No, your notes are wrong. The beauty is that when I interview somebody, what you see is what you get.
Well, that was before the days of digital editing. Well, now we can change everything you say to something else. But I understand what you're saying about that. Now, I heard the story tonight about how you went to Channel 6 management and had to sell them on this crazy idea of doing this program. What exactly do you think convinced them to do it?
Well, actually, they wanted to do the show, but they wanted to do it with somebody with a Hispanic who had television experience. And we're talking 1970. Now, in 1970, in Philadelphia, there were no Hispanics with television experience. And unless, they gave the opportunity to one Hispanic to do some television, there would never be anyone with television experience. So they settled for me because I had both print experience, journalism experience, and I had some radio background, so they took a chance on me. The funny thing is that when they said, coming in, we're going to tape 3 shows, I came prepared to do 3 shows, and I noticed that at the end of the show, the cameramen were telling each other, one cameraman was telling the other, okay, we're doing the second show. Oh, we're going to do the second show? Yeah. And he would tell the next person, okay, we're doing the second show. And I think, wait a minute, what do you mean we're doing a second show? Of course we're doing a second show. They told me to prepare for 3 shows. And he said to me, you don't understand. We would do show 2 or show 3, depending on how show 1 went. In other words, I was being tested, and I didn't know it. He informed me that the brass of the station, general manager, director of programming, director of public affairs, they were all watching me on monitors throughout the building, unbeknownst to me, and I was being tested, and it wasn't until we did the first show that then they decided we'll do shows 2 or 3. And they told me, up front, we're going to try this for 13 weeks. and that was 32 and a half years.
Was there ever thought of doing the show in Spanish?
Yes.
Was it all, yeah.
Yes, we did the show in Spanish several times. Stopped doing so because our audience would drop. They tell me that we lose 80% of the audience every time that we do a show in Spanish. The reason being, that the show is watched by a lot of people who are not yourself.
Right.
You've seen the show.
Right.
People who are not Hispanic, who don't speak Spanish, but are interested in Hispanic issues for one reason or another. The second thing is that a lot of our people, a lot of Hispanic people who live in this market are bilingual. And a lot of them, to be honest with you, feel more comfortable in English than they do in Spanish. In fact, a younger generation, teenagers, a lot of them, they're Hispanic, but they were born here. And they feel more comfortable in English. And in fact, if you were to ask them their names, instead of saying to you, my name is Angel Rodriguez, they would say, my name is Angel Rodriguez. They anglicize the name because they feel more comfortable with English.
Well,
so that's what we're doing in English.
There's a process of assimilation that's taken place.
Yeah.
Something else, if you think back to the late 50s, there was the kind of stereotype Puerto Ricans in things like West Side Story and so on. And, to the mass Anglo audience, these stereotypes have been broken down by things like what you've been doing, because as you see week in and week out, different people of Hispanic descent, Puerto Rican and so forth, and their individuals, the fact that they're individuals comes forward, and the stereotypes tend to be broken down, I think. I don't know if you intended to do that,
Absolutely.
or that was you
yes.
did.
No, that was intended.
Yeah.
It's funny you should say that, because I was at an event about a week ago when a woman gave a speech, and I happened to be at the head table, and she said, before this man came on television, she said the only time you will see a Hispanic would be in handcuffs.
Right.
When he had either committed a crime or had been accused, had been arrested. She said it got to the point where she said, as soon as I heard the newscaster say, a Puerto Rican from Camden today was, she said, I would immediately cover my son's ears, cover his ears, because I didn't want him to hear. She says, now it's just quite the opposite. She said, now with my grandchildren, when he comes on and says, welcome to Puerto Rican Panorama, I call my grandchildren, hey, come in here, I want you to see this. I want you to watch this. She said, the difference is that before Diego Castellanos, before Puerto Rican Panorama, anytime you saw a Hispanic, it was in a negative connotation. She said, now we're seeing positive role models. We're looking at positive stories. We're looking at, folk music. We're looking at Latin performances. So she said, I am finally proud to say that I'm Hispanic. She said, there was a time when I was a little not too, I didn't want to advertise it, But now I'm very proud. And that's one of the, I think, that's one of the things that I think the show has done that I'm very proud of.
Have you attempted to generalize it to including Hispanics from other countries like Cuba and South America and Spain and so on? I mean,
absolutely, yeah. No, we called it in the beginning Puerto Rican Panorama because at the time it started, the majority of the Hispanics living here were, the vast majority were Puerto Rican.
Right.
That is changing. Puerto Ricans are still the majority, but we now have Cubans, Dominicans, Colombians, Mexicans. So that is changing, and it is really a Pan-American show. In fact, several years ago there was an attempt by the Latino community to change the name of the show because they felt that
it was limiting
name,
it to that.
It excluded them. It felt excluded.
Yeah.
They tried to change it, and the station agreed with them. And the station changed the show to change the name of the show to Panorama Latino.
Okay.
That lasted 3 months.
And what happened?
The Puerto Rican community came to the station, demanded a meeting, and said, for years, every time that the term Puerto Rican was said on television, it was in a negative, you know.
Now it's finally
derogatory-
positive, and you're taking it off.
Precisely. That's exactly what they say. Don't you dare take that away. So within 3 months, we were back to Puerto Rico and Puerto Rico. But you're right. We deal with all Hispanic issues, Latino culture. Yeah.
And in the last few years, with the burgeoning Hispanic portion of the population in the whole country, it's become more of an issue. The whole thing, Elian Gonzalez down in Florida was a major national story, and there are still stories about the fight over bilingual education and so on. And it still is an ongoing situation. But I think you've certainly helped to make it all much better, and I think you've really created a lot of understanding among the non-Hispanic community for problems and the beauty of the culture from your country and of all the Hispanic countries, you know. So Diego, congratulations on being
well, thank you very much.
Inducted into the Hall of Fame
Thank
tonight.
you very much. I appreciate that. I don't want to tell you, the Hispanic community is the fastest growing group in the United States, as you know. At the present time, I think that the last census indicated that Hispanics now outnumber African Americans in the United States, so is the largest minority in the country. And in this particular market, you know, it's certainly growing. You know, 40% of the population of Camden, New Jersey is Hispanic. 40% of Vineland, New Jersey is Hispanic. 20% of Trenton is Hispanic. 40% of Reading. So, you know, we're talking, you know, big chunks of the population that are Latino. So I tell people, you know, we are your neighbors, you know. You and I may share grandchildren someday. You know, so...
And it was revealed tonight. People always wondered why Channel 6 was always number one in ratings.
There you go.
You revealed it tonight.
That's the reason.
It was because they tuned into your show and just stuck around.
That's right. That's right. I'll tell you, you know, in a competitive market like this, every little bit helps. And when you realize that that we lead sometimes by 1 point, a percentage of a point. You know, it's not too far-fetched to think that those few thousand Hispanics who follow Channel 6 because A, is the only station that carries a Hispanic show. B, we carry the Puerto Rican Parade every year. And C, Action News does show up at all Hispanic events, you know. So
it's a wonderful local aspect that is being preserved through what you're doing. In this day of the fact that you now work for Disney. It's a big you do. It's a big corporate thing. But here you are still doing it, and we congratulate you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Diego. Our guest tonight on Broadcast Pioneers in Broadcasting. I'm Ed Sharp.